What's up, dudes? Welcome back to another episode of Rhomas Men's Team. Pretty simple. We are a group of guys helping each other make progress towards each other's goals. If you're new to the channel, awesome and welcome. If you want to help support the channel and join our pro team, head over to rhomasteam.com/pro, where you can contribute to us on a donation basis. We also give you access to exclusive content, mastermind groups, etc., etc. So anyway, hope you enjoy this episode, and we'll see you on the team. I don't think so. She's still not playing nice. We're actually supposed to have a meeting later.
She got it to you.
Yeah. I'm not. She may have. I might not have seen it. Anyway, we are live. Sorry for the administrative talk here, fellas. Mr. Larry, Ray, and Rob, what's going on, dudes?
Life is good.
All right, so we had a discussion last week about what level of life do you want? And Mr. Corey, what's up, buddy? I wanted to overlap that. Imagine that you're building out a matrix right now in your head. And so you're selecting the style of life you want. Do you want middle class, upper class, or ultra class? And then reconciling, well, how much are you willing to sacrifice for that? And what lands on the other side of the equation is what you ultimately want, what you really want. Let me run this by you. If you now put in a new column into that matrix of two things: autonomy. How much autonomy do you want? These fucking balloons, man. I get to turn. Yeah. Yeah. So Corey, just saying it. Corey, are you a Mac user yet? Yeah. So they build into the native, operating system. Whenever you put up certain things, hand gestures, it has these like.
That's the same thing as Zoom. We have the same problem.
It's brutal
as well. It's annoying.
Yeah. It takes me
sounds like another reason to be Android.
There we go.
Okay, so now we're going to input the columns of autonomy as well as the tools. So the tool or the vehicle that you're going to use to get there. Now, I think the good news is if you're in the ultra class category, in other words, you want to get to ultra class, you're basically going to have to start your own business. There is no other option, essentially, unless you're a Facebook employee number 2. You're not going to get to ultra class as a W-2 employee. At least my perception is that, unless you're a rare exception. But then using the other column is, what does autonomy look like for you? So is it hey, when I'm at that class or to get to that class, I want to work 7 days a week, or I want to work 3 days a week, or what does that look like? Or even a derivative of autonomy is like, even if you're working 3 or 4 or 5 days a week, if you're working for someone, you are still relatively on call for that person, relatively. So, Corey, let me throw the ball over to you. What do those two columns look like for you?
So the question is autonomy, and then what was the second column?
Yeah, the vehicle that you're going to use. So if you don't mind restating what you said last week, what is the class that you ultimately want to arrive in, middle, upper, or ultra, and then tell us about your autonomy in that when you're in that class / what vehicle are you going to use to get there?
Yeah. So I think upper. For me, to be honest, and I think in terms of tools in order to get there, obviously you specified owning your own business, right? And so with that, I think technology is a huge component in order to help me get there, right? I think it's a bigger subset of everybody's tool set that they need to kind of lean into in order to do that. That's just kind of where businesses are going nowadays. Like if you can look at any new startup, the buzz around AI, the buzz around technology and kind of what's feasible out there, you can literally apply to any aspect of your business. If you want marketing, there are, websites where you can kind of enter a chat and it can build something for you. If you want dynamic content creation for like emails, right? You do the same thing. So I think technology is probably the one component where I feel like everybody needs to get familiar with in some aspect in order to support their own business model, right? It could be anything. It could be funnel optimization. It can be, surveys, automation, campaign automation. It could be more sales side. It could be more finance side, right? Having kind of like your own, virtual accountant, and, just things in order to provide you with the space and the bandwidth in order to do more things in order to drive your business. That's the name of the game, right? Time is a finite resource. And so in order to get that time back, in order to look into new products that your company can do, or to look into cost optimization or anything like that, you need to get more of that time back, whether it's getting you off the sales floor, or getting you out of the weeds of digital marketing and spending that time. I mean, Wes, seminars, right? Seminars is a from your aspect, right, is a kind of a game changer, right? But how do we use Wes's, personality and brain in order to do that without Wes physically having to necessarily be there? That's digital. This podcast is one good example, right? In order to get the word out there. So that's, I feel like, what I would personally lean into in terms of a tool set, first and foremost.
So Corey, I want to make sure I understand this correctly. So your goal is upper class, and the vehicles that you're going to use to get there, from right now, if you don't mind me saying this, you're W2, so you work for a company and you also have a side gig, which by the way, I think is a phenomenal vehicle set to get people to upper, and also give the opportunity for the moonshot of ultra. And then more specifically, the tools you're going to be using are technology-based tools. Yeah. Ray, hearing Corey saying what he was saying and given the prompts, what are your thoughts, brother?
I love what Corey said. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love what Corey said. Made me really think about the favorite parts of my job and the least favorite parts of my job, and using technology to to optimize both, so that my client touches, my likability, my education to my clients could be increased using technology. And then the parts I don't like to do can be sped up, so that kind of being stuck in that accounting dungeon or whatever, admin dungeon, gets minimized. I think part of the autonomy piece for me, what comes to mind is just having the job you love, doing the job you love, because then it doesn't feel like work, right? And then, like Jordan Peterson says, make a schedule. When he's encouraging people to get off their ass, he says, make a schedule, but make the schedule that you want. Don't make a schedule that you're prisoner to. You hate working out, you put working out on there. You hate doing your homework, you put your homework on there. I think that if you're doing the job that you love, there is a sense of autonomy that's built into that. If you're doing a job that you love, you likely want to do it, right? I guess the question is, Wes, can you help me with the inverse? What is the inverse of autonomy? And because I think I could answer you ways that I could set up a system that avoids that. So what's the inverse of autonomy to you? Give me some examples.
Slavery.
Okay. Yeah. So always always rely on Wes to talk in extremes. It's too bad balloons didn't go up when you said the word slavery. Yeah, so and that's what came to mind for me, really, was being stuck at work an extra hour when you want to be doing this other thing, and not having the autonomy to leave work, right? Having to come in on the weekends to do a job that you don't want to do because the boss requires you to, and you don't have the autonomy to say no. So for me, if I'm doing a job that I love, I don't mind doing overtime, because it doesn't feel like work. It feels like me just nurturing my bliss, my passion, my being the hero of my own kind of adventure. So I think I mean, if I want to be playing this game for another 40 or 50 years, it better be something that I love to do. And that for me is that's like a non-quantitative way of solving for the autonomy piece.
And Wes,
Yeah, I
when you
really
talk
like
about
Oh, please
when you
go.
talk about tools, sorry, are you referring to like in regards to your entrepreneurial side business? Are you talking about financial tools? Are you talking about tools for education? Like, is it kind of open-ended, or is there something specific in terms of what tools you're thinking about?
Yeah, well, I think Corey did a really good job of on expanding. So I guess we can now have three columns, right? So it's like autonomy, vehicles that you're going to use to get there, primarily like career-based vehicles / and then let's say that the third column be the tools that you're going to use. So you went one level deeper. I'm going to use technology-based tools. Yes, you could use financial-based tools, et cetera. And Ray, to your point, I love where you're going with this. There's a phenomenal book by Rory Sutherland called Alchemy. He was a CEO, I believe, of Ogilvy Advertising in the UK. One of my favorite books of all time, and just kind of stumbled on this last year. And he talked about oftentimes questioning the problem is really important. So he used this example of, I think it was in the UK, how the train systems, they were trying to figure out how to make the train systems faster. And he brought to the table, said, hey, is it about making the train system faster, which by the way is going to cost billions of dollars, and you're starting to get on the upper end of physics here? Or do you spend a fraction of that amount with a more enjoyable or more predictable train route? So for instance, if you were to add, NFL cheerleaders walking up and down the aisles serving drinks, right? You probably then have the opposite problem. You will have people not wanting to get off the train, or
let's go for that option.
Yeah. Or do you make it more predictable, right? Saying, hey, what we're really finding is that people don't like waiting for the train. So, okay, now you develop an app that says, okay, your train is 5 minutes behind or a half hour behind, therefore you can sleep in for an extra 20 minutes, et cetera. So, Ray, I like what you're saying is, hey, perhaps it's not dollar for dollar autonomy. Perhaps it's the enjoyment. So maybe you're working 80 hours a week in your business, but you enjoy it more than working 40 hours for somebody else.
I mean, that's true for me, and I'm sure that's true for you, Wes, at this point in your journey, correct?
100%. Yeah. Corey, now given that distinction, do you want to add or delete anything from your tool / vehicle matrix?
Which was super useful, Corey, by the way. First of all, super useful what you said, and right on point. Go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, yeah, obviously there's an array of things, but it's really a prioritization level, right? I think, from tools or vehicles, what gets you to your goals faster, and you prioritize in that mode. And sometimes you can't do everything all at once. Going back to what I said, is time is finite. There's only a certain level of resources, whether you have a family or friends or other obligations, or even things that you enjoy, to give you some, utility in some capacity, right? But how do you prioritize what vehicle to use? Is probably just return on investment. Is it education that, maybe if I study for X amount of time, I get a certification, which allows me to consult and do XYZ, here in 6 months versus a year. And I think, the key is really just prioritization. And that's how I look to drive my, my autonomy, is what can I take up now that yields me the most, whether it's time or money or any other thing that gives me utility in the nearest amount of time.
Love it. Larry, what is your perspective?
Hey dudes, sorry for the interruption here. Just wanted to let you know, if you want to join our pro team, go to romasteam.com/pro. You can help support the channel. You will also get access to exclusive content, masterminds, one-on-one sessions, etc. All right, back to the episode.
Well, first off, my perception is I don't have a class that I want to be in. because that's a limitation. And then I'm always focused on, am I there or not? And that brings up this concept of work. And I don't believe in work. I believe in creativity. I think work is a concept of you're not where you want to be, so work. And I think what happens is it takes you out of this moment. It takes you out of being able to show up actually being that person that you think you're attempting to accomplish. Having that life that you're attempting to put all of these tools together for, when the reality is that the most optimal way to live one's life is decide what is it that you're attempting to obtain and behave accordingly, because that's the moment you're going to take action. And this whole concept of what class do I want to be in? You talk about autonomy. Autonomy is your own class. Autonomy is allowing yourself to be truly authentic, present, and recognize that life's a creative force. We're not here to work, for crying out loud. That is a perception, a label that has been cast upon people to think that they're going to get somewhere. And I think it's misconstrued, because what we're really being tasked with is being creative. And we're creative relative to. And the relative to is the ultimate outcome that we're attempting to obtain. For instance, I had a bunch of sun damage on my head. That's why this new cap label, but it was an enjoyable experience, because now I got to really experience cancer. I thought I got to experience it with prostate cancer, but no, I get to experience it again. And why I'm putting it in that perspective is, what's the option? Be scared to death, worry about you're going to die. This is the moment. And I had a very creative experience, and I did a keynote with a hat on, and people really liked the look, and I didn't do it because I wanted people to like the look. I did it to spare people from having to experience, some of the grotesqueness that can be perceived. And so I'm just, I'm not being fanciful, but I think we really have to be careful of thinking that we've got to get somewhere other than where we are. I think we're creative to obtain things so that we are theoretically enjoying more of where we are. But if we haven't chosen to enjoy where we are, regardless of the circumstances, and that being that you've got cancer, you lost your job, your spouse has left you, you woke up in the morning crabby, it doesn't matter the circumstance. What's your choice? And the choice always comes back to what is the ultimate destination that you're attempting to accomplish, and behave accordingly. And then you'll manifest, because that's how life works, and give you all the information necessary. So that's my perspective on that.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. I want to push back a tiny bit, not push back, but let's riff on this, because I wonder, Larry, in the philosophy that you're saying, at some point there's going to be a reconciliation. Hey, you don't want to talk about classes, but when you pull up to the private jet, they're going to ask for money. And if you say, well, I have no classes, I also have no money, but I want access to the private jet. At what point is there a reconciliation?
My desires are very high. Yeah. And so therefore that causes me to be very creative. And my creativity is a level that affords me the opportunity to live that life which I desire. So I'm not saying that I'm not doing social media, and I'm not making phone calls, and I'm not doing what others people perceive as the work. And some work they like and some work they don't like. Hell, I like it all because it's not work. It's the creative process that I need to have fun doing so that I can have my desires met. But in the meantime, I can't be wandering around in a state of want, because now I'm in a scarcity mentality, and now I'm needy. And you turn people off, and you aren't as creative when you're blocked like that. So that's what I'm talking about. And I appreciate that question, because it's not, I don't close my eyes and expect to end up in Kansas, for crying out loud.
Mhm.
You know, but I need when my wife says we got a lot of work to do today, the first thing out of my mouth is no, we have a lot of creativity we want to do today.
Mhm.
And it's just rephrasing, because words are so powerful and they do things to us from a psychic perspective when we use the wrong ones. And that's where people end up living. Is how many people do you see that are struggling or not happy yet? But when the hell is that going to occur? It's not going to occur when they get it, because it still won't be enough. So that's kind of my riff on that and what I mean by.
Yeah, because I think oftentimes, Larry, the reason why you and I work so well together is I think we're relatively polar, if not exactly polar, in the philosophy, but I think the destination is congruent for both of us.
Yeah.
Because, and I think you'll resonate with a certain amount of guys, and I expect to resonate with, you know, a fraction of those guys. But I could tell you, for me, the number one quote that I resonate with is "Brave the result so bad, the work is irrelevant." From Tim Grover, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant's personal trainer, because I think Corey's the same way. I not only am not afraid of like coming from the basement and using basement type of language, it motivates me. I'm actually scared of enjoying the process, if that makes sense, because I feel like it's going to take the edge off. And I do find with the men that I admire.
I will tell you though, Wes, it won't take the edge off. You're not going to get rid of the edge. The jet's not going to be big enough. The house isn't going to be big enough. I mean, every one of us is a striver. And complacency is when we've given up on ourselves. You know, that's the only thing to concern yourself with, is you gave up on yourself. You stopped dreaming. You stopped wanting. But while you're doing it, don't sit there and focus on what's not happening for you. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, trust me. I want to be happy. This is not, you know, I wish, you know, for some reason I feel like it's not in my cards. But so I agree with the philosophy, at least intellectually, but I could tell you emotionally, and I get reminded about this almost weekly. I absolutely thrive off of the stereotypical, like, okay, this guy told me no.
Well, Larry, did you always feel this way, Larry?
I did. Remember my sister was born mentally delayed. And so labels were imprinted on me that they'll slow you down and they'll make you feel that you're less than. And I had a lot of challenges, a lot of struggles. And yet I constantly, my dad once said, "You're the only person I know that fall into a bucket of shit and come out smelling like a rose." You know, and I didn't really understand that, but then I recognized that. I think we all, Time Magazine years ago had a cover that we are born optimistic, because anybody that realizes that they're going to die shouldn't be optimistic, because we're going through all of this for what? Only to die. And so innately, we are we wouldn't be able to propagate the species. We wouldn't be able to continue life as it is. We wouldn't want to overcome challenges. We wouldn't want to solve global climate. We wouldn't want to do any of these things if we didn't have this perception of. But what my sister taught me is careful about labels, because then you'll act accordingly.
Well, then for someone like Wes and Corey, do you think their perspective could ever change?
I think they have a beautiful perspective. I think they absolutely are. You just look at them and they exude confidence. They exude happiness. They have a great sense of what they believe in. I think we're just into the words that we use. That's all I'm talking about. But we think with words 24/7, and we've got to be really cautious of the words that we use. And to me, work has always been perceived as laborious. Something people don't like to do. And I'm not going to do that in my life.
So do you think Wes and Corey are anomalies?
No.
Because I feel like I'm in between what you're saying and what Corey and Wes experience. But because now I feel like I know you a little bit and I know Corey and Wes, and I feel like I'm kind of in the middle. But I feel like to them, it truly work doesn't matter. It's like the goal is just the goal, and whatever comes to get to that goal is just required work.
Yeah, and if work doesn't bum you out, it doesn't make you feel like you have to, then use work. For me, I prefer creativity. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that it doesn't put me in a state of, I've got to do this. Yeah. Because that's the biggest way to crash yourself emotionally, to put yourself into a situation of, I'm not there yet. And then what it does is it causes our brain, our subconscious, the servo mechanism, to now focus on all the other things that aren't going on the way you want them to in your life. That does not allow you to be the best version of yourself right now. And that's when we need to be the best version, is right now, because that's where life is right now.
Well, can I ask you a question? Sorry, just real quick. Do you think Kobe, for instance, would have changed his mentality had he lived, like have a conversation with him at 65, 70 versus you don't think so? Yeah, I don't think so either. That's why I think it's like a DNA thing for some people.
Yeah. It's just different view. I feel like Larry's view is very, very interesting to me. It's a different perspective than I could even imagine because, obviously Larry is very, very goal driven, but it's very open-ended. Like he lets his creativity kind of drive everything. Right. And I feel like, Wes, and maybe you can resonate with this a little bit, but I have to take accountability of myself at each stage to make sure that I am hitting what my goals are. That might be a less open-ended for me, but it's the chip that I need in order to do that. I'm very, very similar to Wes in that someone tells me no, like that is enough to drive me the next quarter mile, right? And I just find it very, very fascinating that if I was to tweak my perception to be a little bit more creative, a little less, results driven, maybe that opens up another couple of doors for me or anything like that. It's funny because Robert, you're correct, 100% correct. I like what I do and I have utility in what I do, but I'm more concerned with the result than the actual medium I do in order to get it there. And I don't know if that's a lack of passion for the work. Yeah, go ahead, Larry.
I'm totally results driven. I have a monthly amount that I want to accomplish before I move it to a higher amount. Mm-hmm. And I always looking at where I'm at, but I always look at the gap as the opportunity, not as like, oh shit, I better kick it in. I don't need to do that anymore because that puts me in a state of stress. I pump more cortisol in my system. Starts to mess with my telomeres. I'm starting to really decay myself from a biological perspective, and I'm not going to do that. It's not too short. It's now. Yeah. And I think the more I teach myself that, the less I'm prone to putting myself into emotional stress. And it's the biggest killer to especially in American society known to man. And I want to live vibrantly into 115, 125. I am definitely results oriented, but I don't talk about, oh God, look at how far you are. Oh, well, you better work harder. That's all I'm saying. It's more of a philosophy. It's not that goals aren't important. It's not that I don't need them to drive me. It's not any of that. It's just a terminology that I choose to use on my journey.
I think, Larry, there's like a gift and a curse that maybe Wes and Corey may have. And I don't know that they're like the reality. They might be the minority. But it's interesting because I do think that Wes and Corey do have polar opposite opinions. Not to say that you're wrong. I think that there's a lot of validity. And obviously, I just wonder, had they experienced some of the life journey that you've experienced, if their decisions may change. I don't think that they would. I think that's just who they are potentially.
Yeah, I can say this. So I wonder if there's another side of this. kind of like people who go to the gym, that the pain is enjoyable. And the stress that you're referring to, Larry, if we could put a distinction on that, like the difference between eustress and distress, I feel like I experience eustress just in maybe a darker way. So like for those, I've talked about this, but this is my enemies card that I keep in my wallet. And there's this guy, I put all the initials of the guys who are my enemies on this. And there's this guy, his initials are JS. I'm not saying his name, not out of respect, because I don't want him to gain any momentum on me, so that when we meet again, he told me certain things when I was in grade school, and he's on here. And when I have a hard day, I actually get enjoyment out of it because I know that he will stop at hard versus I know that's where I will start. So I wonder if it is very similar when you go to the gym, and for a non-gym goer or an alien coming down here and they're hearing these people that sound like they're in pain, you know, it's like, well, why is Rob going to this thing where he puts himself in pain every day and then he shows up the next day? Because somewhere in his psychology, he knows that the pain is pleasure, or he's actually made that formal connection. I mean, Corey, coming from like the darker side of motivation, and by the way, I feel like if you were to talk to Tom Brady, if you were to talk to Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, go down the list, and it feels to me, and maybe I'm wrong, is that a large percentage of those killers that we probably admire are coming from a certain sense of pain.
Yeah, and I think that Rob, just to add a little bit of texture, the way that Corey and Wes are so results driven, so hungry.
Well, Larry's hungry too. I mean, I can totally see how they're all hungry.
Right, but the point I'm trying to make is listening to all you outstanding gentlemen today, it just shows me that there are different approaches to success while remaining authentic. So like I would love to be able to swap brains with Wes for 3 hours a day and just complete like 2 months worth of work. But just some of the things that Wes says about what drives him just shudder me to my core, and I think that, and I think that is that's the Faustian bargain I think you should be careful of, which is like, you are obviously tremendously successful in what you do. And just because you don't have Wes and Corey's approach, I don't know if so like we can learn from them, but I don't know if you would want to like cut away room in your authenticity to make room for that. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm not sure what I would want you to give up, because obviously like you have a really likable kind of demeanor.
Thanks, bud.
And a good vibe. And I think those are not just like useless. That's not like just good at bar trivia. That those are actually like essential communication skills. And no offense to Corey and Wes, obviously, but I just went I see that as a unique quality that you have. And again, you, Rob, Corey, Wes, Larry are all successful, but they have you all have different recipes in terms of like psycho drive is this much in you, likability and communication skills are this much in you. For Larry, likability and communication skills are off the charts, and for Corey and Wes, it's that the relentless column is off the charts. And I hope I'm not insulting anyone with that description, but like obviously, Rob, I think you're authentic. Like I wouldn't want you to like turn down the volume on any of like the authentic qualities that you have.
No, I appreciate that,
it's
man.
all part of your recipe.
I think you got to show Ray our sweet sensitive types. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say Corey and Wes are very like
Ray. You must have got the wrong.
I know they are, dude.
Yeah.
I know. I'm just talking about the different.
Sure. No, and I appreciate
you were talking about how Wes and Corey are different than you in terms of that psycho drive, and so I just wanted to identify with you that like you have like that. I'm not sure what I would want to turn down in terms of your recipe because it seems to all be working.
No, I get it. Absolutely. And I think me, you, and and Larry are probably people. Like we generally like people. Not to say Corey and Wes are not, but I think that's definitely what me, you, and Larry share for sure. But like there's another person that I would put into that category of similar to Corey and Wes is Arnold Schwarzenegger and also Elon Musk. And it's like you hear these guys talk, and if you actually listen to what they say, it's like these. I mean, it's not about the work. It's about the results. Like Elon will sleep in his office, or Arnold will work out for like literally 24 hours in one day, or Arnold has a great expression. It's not the 7th, 8th, or 9th rep where you get the gains, because that's where the pain starts. Where the growth starts is where the pain starts. So when everyone else has given up, that's when the people that are hustling are just getting started. It's rep 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And I really respect that mentality, because I feel like people that have it, I admire it, because I don't know that I have that same mentality. But that doesn't mean we can't be successful. And I feel like I understand exactly where Larry's coming from. It's like you got to enjoy the journey.
And that's the point I was trying to make. I was trying to like lock on to what you said. Like, I don't think I have that DNA. I don't think I have that mindset that the most extreme cases of success and achievement and drive have. And I just want you to know that, like Larry said, like, just because you and I don't have that kind of mindset or that kind of DNA, the way the obvious examples, Wes, Corey, Schwarzenegger, Elon Musk, Charles Manson, have it, that doesn't mean that success is out of the question, or like the same level of success is out of the question.
Yeah. No, for sure. There's just a lot of admiration I have for that, because I feel like it's a killer instinct.
Same.
It's like why I always will choose MJ and Kobe over LeBron, because I just feel like they'll do what it takes no matter what.
This is when you brought up autonomy, we're putting a course together on intrinsic motivators. And Daniel Pink, a lawyer from Yale, which is where he originated in his pursuit, did some phenomenal research. And the intrinsic motivators is why we get up in the morning. It has nothing to do with money. Money is something that is an outcome. And the first one is we want to be autonomous. The second one is we want to master our craft. And the third one is we want to have a sense of purpose. And autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And purpose is we're doing this for something greater than self. Otherwise, we really don't know how much we're limiting ourselves to our own imagination. And when we get out of that and are doing it beyond just our own self-fulfillment. And so that, I think, is something we all have in common. I think if we really peeled the onion and we looked into each other's hearts, we'd find that, yeah, I want to be autonomous. I want to be a guy who's an influencer. I want to be able to have a choice as to how I live my life and who I work with and don't. And I also want to be able to be the best at my craft I can possibly be, because that's not only reassuring and building confidence for myself, but it's also something that people are attracted to. They want to be around people that have an answer and that know, so they can trust. And then the third is they don't seem to be all about themselves. They seem to be about something that's going to enrich all of our lives. And I feel that from everyone on this screen. And hi, Phil, welcome. And now it's just a matter of fulfillment. Where are we on that? And that's what I see in Wes. I see that, and this is my real first experience with Corey. But I can feel that authenticity and that magnetism and that attractiveness in how he shares information. And the same thing with Ray and Rob. Is our pursuit is, and this is something I think is really essential, because I've seen this, the difference between being in that ultra class where you're getting into the jet and sitting down with a smile on your face and a sense of satisfaction. And it's not about the jet. Jet is just a symbol of what you've contributed and how much life has given back to you. And I really feel and sense that in every single one of you. And I think when we skip that, and I think we go through a period of narcissism, and I think we go through it, well, how am I doing and what am I getting? And I think when we ultimately mature, and I think it is all about maturation. And maturation is that old concept of whether you believe in it. Remember, God gave us everything to be successful except one thing. And that one thing was experience. That's one thing that you can't learn and read and educate on, is you just got to get out there and find out for yourself. And ultimately, you'll find out this is not about me. And that's when true acceleration occurs in our lives. At least that's my one perspective on it.
Love it. Larry, you're the friend I wish I had when I was growing up. Maybe I would not have an enemies card.
To steer you away from jumping off the cliff of impending work to get it done.
Yeah. So let me ask you guys, yes, we'll go around the table one more time here. Is there any point in which you plan on retiring? So hanging up the shoes of the game, that's the driver for your economics. Ray, let me throw it over to you.
No, I just feel like it's pivoting is the goal. For example, selling art to other people to create world-class art collections, along the way picking up art of my own, and then in that retirement phase, it would be just like monetizing my own art collection. So selling one object from my collection every year to fund the life I want. So it will still be, it'll just be like a different input into the same work I'm doing now. That's from this vantage point, that's how I envision the retirement kind of zone looking.
So more of an evolution, not a stopping.
Correct. Rather than just going fishing every day or whatever the cliche is.
And Phil, your video is not on, brother, and it looks like you're muted. So whenever you want to come on, feel free to chime in. In the meantime, Rob, throwing the ball over to you.
Oh, I think Ray hit the nail on the head. I don't think I could ever fully retire. I mean, don't get me wrong, Corey and I joke about it. We can play golf all day because we're so competitive. But I think the reality is I would like to be able to potentially give back, like maybe make social media more of a giving back thing, or like mentoring. Hopefully my advice will be worth something where someone would want to listen to it. Or just working on the passive income channels, or doing pet projects like with Corey. Like maybe not the 9-to-5 grind, but I don't know that I could ever fully hang up the shoes with not trying to at least do something with my time to, have money coming in, and money not even necessarily being the reason as to why, just the byproduct of staying busy and, helping others.
Yeah, absolutely. Corey, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, very, very similar along the lines with Robert is, I think about it a lot, what I would do with unlimited free time. But yeah, I think if I'm going to be honest with myself, I think critically thinking is a muscle that continuing needs to be trained like anything else. And I think if I was to think of a perfect kind of schedule for me, it would be, obviously a lot less working hours, but more purposeful projects, my own, us coming up with a new venture that could potentially work and designing and implementing that. I get a lot of utility out of that, just kind of building my technical expertise in any facet, whether it's golf or, coding or, anything else. And so I think having a combination of both those two, while obviously making passive income, can't hurt, right? And that's kind of how I view myself.
Love it. Larry, if you're still there, bro, I think you just left.
Well, what about you, Wes?
0%.
0%.
Like no.
Are you going to nose to the grindstone, 100%, start 100%. To finish? No pulling back the lever at all?
Put off the gas pedal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, don't get me wrong,
guys.
If I more free time, I'd love to learn that industry.
I think that I would be better at retiring than Wes would be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, Wes?
So I don't know about you guys, but like what I will honestly say, and all that I ask is that everybody on this team be authentic, and I'm being authentic, right? Because like in these types of sessions, especially when you can become the minority, the worst thing you do is voice to the majority because it sounds good. And I'm just telling you guys, just to be quite honest, like I only have plans of acceleration. That's it. Period. My experience with life, and by the way, just so everyone knows, I don't think this ends well. I just don't think it's possible. Like I'd rather the ending not be enjoyable versus the process not be enjoyable for me right now. I don't like playing any other games than the games that I'm playing right now because they're so serious. So it's kind of like, well, when you go over to play Monopoly, right? Like it's not as fun as playing the business game because it's not real. Like the stress is what makes it fun, you know? All of a sudden when you're watching a basketball game and you put 20 grand on the line, you know, you're more interested in the game. So for me, I don't gamble at all, but for me, the business game, that's the game, and the health game and the family game, et cetera, but treating it with a certain level of seriousness. I don't ever predict any sort of reduction in acceleration because of how compounding works. You know, you look at Warren Buffett and he built, I think it's like 80% of his net worth after the age of 50. It's something like super asymmetrical because of the way compounding works. Skills work the same way. Relationships work the same way. I think in America, we have this narrative of, yeah, you retire when you're 65 because we said so. Who the fuck said, like, right? That's an archaic system. So for me, no chance. I would not. And the killers that I know in the finance game, they're the same way. You know, I talk with a guy almost weekly. He's in his 80s and he has no need financially anymore, but he said, he's like, I can't go to Target with my wife anymore. You know, I just can't do it, you know, because it's not as compelling as interesting. And this guy is an absolute monster in the business game. So I don't know. I don't envision that at all. Phil, let me throw the ball over to you, brother, if you can hear us. What does that look like for you? Do you anticipate ever reaching a point in a career that says, yep, I'm done?
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
This app was made by a fucking monkey. What the fuck is this bullshit?
Phil's here.
Thank you for your contribution, Phil.
Yeah.
I can't believe how I'm getting like 20-second delay. I'm getting double audio now. You're gonna have to.
It's fine. On our end, you just sound like a raving lunatic with like no echo or anything. So just carry on.
The thing is, the mobile app isn't as good as the web app. That's just what it comes down to.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Agreed.
Yeah. So anyway, final words of wisdom. Let's go around the robin here. Final words of wisdom. Ray.
I'll just give back something that Wes says a lot, which is like, pick a game you're willing to play for the next 50 years. I think that is the like alpha starting point.
Love it. Rob, final words of wisdom.
I think that there's no right or wrong way. So whether someone's listening and they agree more with Larry or they agree more with Wes, that whatever your way is, just maybe try someone else's way, but be realistic with yourself. Also, to be fair to Wes, I think he did accurately point out that potentially his game doesn't always end well. So if you're on that path, you know, just be aware of the risk. And at the end of the day, as long as you're putting your best foot forward, I think good things happen. But I do think you have to critically think, like Corey said. So I don't know if you can ever fully retire. You gotta get busy living or get busy dying, you know?
Yeah. Love it. Corey, final words, buddy.
I think time is your most expensive resource. Pick and prioritize things that's going to give you utility the fastest, regardless of what that is.
Love it. Phil, sorry you're coming in tail end here. Final words of wisdom or comment card you want to fill out for Crowdcast app development.
Yeah.
What's the topic? I don't know. I couldn't hear anything until just now.
Autonomy?
Do you ever want to retire? It was like the final subtopic here. Do you ever want to fully retire?
No.
And there we have it. Phil, thank you very much, my friend. Absolutely love it. Sorry for the app and its inability to let. I guess what is it? Everybody's
build us
having
a new
problems
one,
with
Phil.
the mobile app.
Build us a new app, Phil.
There you go.
And Corey.
That is your calling. All right, dudes. I love you guys. We'll see you all on Friday.